My name is Elena, and 3 years ago, I married Logan, believing we shared a common vision for our future. Our lives were supposed to be a partnership, an unspoken promise that we'd build a life together. We had everything anyone could want, a beautiful, sleek apartment at the top of a towering skyscraper, a breathtaking view of the city that never slept. Every evening, I'd stand by the expansive windows, watching as the city was bathed in golden hues from the setting sun, and I would feel a sense of calm, even amidst the chaos of my demanding career. I worked as the head of the finance department at a high-profile media production company, a job that promised immense growth. My career was on a steep ascent, and I was dedicated to making it flourish, not just for me, but for us. I believed that my hard work would secure a prosperous future, one where both Logan and I could relax and enjoy the fruits of our labor. But as the days passed, the balance between work and home life began to tip, and that elusive harmony slipped further and further out of reach. The more I poured myself into my job, the more it seemed like Logan and I were growing apart. One evening, after another long day at work, I returned to our apartment close to 10 p.m. As I often did, I thought nothing of it until Logan's voice cut through the stillness of the apartment, tinged with frustration. "Elena, you're hardly ever home," he said, his tone soft but full of reproach. "What's the point of living in this beautiful place if you're never here to enjoy it with me?" I paused for a moment, exhausted, and placed my briefcase down on the hallway table, trying to muster the energy to respond. "Logan, we've talked about this. My job is critical to our future. It's not just about me, it's about us," I explained, hoping to reassure him, but the words felt hollow. Before he could bring up his mother's frequent disapproval of my priorities, I spoke up quickly. "I'm not interested in conforming to the role your mother imagines for me," I added, perhaps too sharply. Logan's face darkened at my words. "Maybe you should care, she's family, Elena," he said quietly, as though the weight of his mother's expectations was something I had to take seriously. I bristled at his suggestion. "And so am I. You knew what my priorities were when we got married, career first, then family." That night, as I lay awake in bed, I felt the rift between us widening. His mother's influence, ever present in the background, seemed to be eating away at the connection we once had, but I wasn't ready to let go of everything I had worked so hard to build, and the thought of giving up my career to satisfy his demands filled me with dread. I had come too far to turn back now. The following day, my boss, Mr. Arthur, summoned me into his office with exciting news. He told me that our company was merging with a large firm from another city, and they wanted me to take the lead in managing the new department. It was the kind of opportunity one had been working toward for years, and the excitement that bubbled up inside me was undeniable. "That's fantastic, Mr. Arthur, I won't let you down," I said, eager to prove my worth in this new role. But as he warned me about the demands the new position would place on my time, I barely hesitated before assuring him that I was ready for whatever challenge lay ahead. I didn't even stop to think about what this might mean for Logan and me. The chance to ascend further in my career was too tempting to resist. Later that evening, I decided to celebrate with Logan. I made plans for a special dinner at our favorite restaurant, arranging everything meticulously, fine china, candles, the whole works. When he finally arrived, I couldn't wait to share the good news with him, but his reaction was far from what I had imagined. He looked around the table, his face dark with annoyance.
"What's all this?"
he asked, his voice flat and guarded. I leaned forward, eager to share my joy. "I'm up for a huge promotion. It means more opportunities,
"Global travel."
new beginnings. We could even look for a bigger house," I said, my excitement palpable. Logan let out a bitter laugh. "More work, more hours, more of you being absent," he retorted,
his tone sharp and biting.
"When are we supposed to be a priority in this marriage?" "I am prioritizing us," I insisted, though my words sounded weak even to my own ears. "This is for our future."
"Future?"
Logan scoffed,
his voice growing colder.
"What future? You're never here. The apartment's a mess. We're eating takeout every night, and I'm getting tired of it." I watched helplessly as Logan stormed off to his office, slamming the door behind him. I was left sitting at the table, the fancy dinner growing cold, the sparkle of the apartment's luxury fading into the background of my frustration. 3 weeks later, I decided to hire a housekeeper, hoping that the change would ease the tension. I convinced myself it would be a small sacrifice for the sake of my career and perhaps a step toward fixing the growing distance between us. The housekeeper quickly transformed our apartment into a pristine space, and I thought perhaps this was just what we needed, a little more order to accompany the chaos of my work schedule. For a while, it seemed to help. We enjoyed the benefits, delicious meals awaiting us when we came home, a tidy apartment, and fewer things to argue about.
But Logan's resentment simmered beneath the surface.
And soon enough,
It bubbled over. Found a way to replace yourself at home, too, he sneered one evening as we sat down to dinner. I tried to keep my tone light. I thought it might help both of us, keeping the apartment in shape, ensuring we have nice meals after long days. But Logan wasn't hearing it. He slammed his fork down on the table, his voice rising in frustration. But that's not the problem. Elena, what's next? Are you going to hire someone to replace you in our marriage? The sting of his words hit me like a slap to the face. I stared at him in shock. That's uncalled for, I whispered, hurt by the cruelty in his voice. Uncalled for? Logan barked, rising from his seat, chair scraping violently across the floor. It's uncalled for to come back to an empty house every night. It's uncalled for to have a wife who cares more about her job than her family. The silence that followed was deafening. Logan stormed out, leaving me alone, my heart sinking into a pit of confusion and despair. The weeks that followed were filled with tense silences and sharp exchanges. Each word felt like a minefield, and I was too distracted by the pressure of my work to fully notice how deep the rift between Logan and I had grown.
But then I decided it was time to try and break the cycle, to show Logan I was still committed to our relationship.
I texted him with hope in my heart, planning a romantic dinner tonight, complete with your favorite dessert. When Logan walked in, I had everything set up, candles, a beautiful table, and my best dress, ready to turn the evening around. But he wasn't alone. Logan had brought his mother, Addison, along for the surprise. Elena, darling, what a lovely surprise, Addison cooed, feigning sweetness. Were you expecting company? I forced a smile, masking my frustration. I was hoping for a quiet dinner with Logan, but I wasn't expecting you. Addison settled herself into a chair, ignoring the tension thick in the air. Logan barely met my gaze, his body stiff with discomfort. Addison, on the other hand, dominated the conversation, speaking in a tone that reeked of judgment. You know, my friend Sarah just became a grandmother, she said, her words aimed directly at me. It's such a blessing, being surrounded by family. A woman's place is in the home, raising children. I clenched my jaw, trying to remain composed. That sounds wonderful, I said stiffly. Oh, it is, Addison continued, her voice dripping with condescension. But you should know, Elena, that a woman's primary role is with her family, not chasing after a career.
my grip tightened on my fork.
My patience fraying. Actually, Addison, a woman's role is whatever she chooses it to be. Her eyes narrowed, and she shot back. Really? And what about your role as a wife and potential mother to my grandchildren? Before I could respond, I felt something inside me snap. The carefully constructed facade of politeness crumbled. I stood up abruptly, my chair scraping against the floor. I think it's time for you to leave, Addison, I said, my voice icy. Logan's eyes widened in shock as he stood to intervene. Elena, he began, but I cut him off. No, Logan, I can't do this anymore. This is my home, I said, my voice steady despite the turmoil inside. Addison gasped theatrically. Logan, how can you let her speak to me this way? Logan hesitated, caught between his loyalty to his mother and his wife, but ultimately, he did nothing. Addison, however, was quick to gather her things and leave, muttering under her breath. As she left,
I sank back into my chair.
the weight of the evening crashing down on me.
I stared at the untouched dinner.
My hopes for a peaceful evening shattered, and I realized that this wasn't the marriage I had envisioned. I whispered under my breath, still struggling to grasp the reality unfolding before me. Logan stood there, his face resolute, holding a stack of papers, divorce papers. Dead serious, he said, his tone unyielding. Sign these, and you can go back to your job. Tear them up, and you can come back inside as a proper wife should. I stared at the papers in his hand, my gaze flicking from them to Logan, then to Addison, who stood behind him, her eyes fixed on me with an air of smug satisfaction. In that moment, everything became painfully clear. This was the culmination of years of sacrifices, of bending to expectations, and of giving up everything I had worked for, all in the name of a marriage that had slowly but surely crumbled. I wasn't ready to lose everything, but I was also unwilling to live a life shackled to a man and a mother who no longer saw me as a partner. Without a word, I took the papers and, with a hand that trembled only slightly,
Sign my name on every dotted line.
the weight of my decision settled over me, but there was no turning back now.
There.
I said flatly, handing the signed papers back to Logan.
I chose my career.
Because clearly, I don't have a husband or a family anymore. Logan and Addison's faces twisted in shock, as though they hadn't expected me to make such a choice. Their reactions only deepened the realization that I had been a pawn in a game I hadn't even known I was playing. Before they could speak, I turned on my heel and walked away, my suitcase trailing behind me. The sound of my footsteps echoed in the silence, each step taking me further away from the life I had once known. As the elevator descended, I couldn't help but laugh, bitter, hollow, but necessary. I had just been ousted from my own home, and in doing so, I had let go of a version of myself that had been suffocating under Logan and Addison's thumb. 10 minutes later, I was homeless. That evening, I found myself alone in a hotel room, the weight of the day's events pressing down on me like a physical force. My mind raced, reflecting on everything that had led to this point, the sacrifices, the struggles,
The constant battle to prove my worth.
but there was no time to dwell.
I needed clarity.
The next morning, I called Lena, my lawyer, my friend, the one person who always knew how to help me see the way forward. Elena, what's wrong? You never call this early. Lena's voice crackled through the phone, filled with concern. I spent the next hour unraveling the entire mess to her. After a long pause,
Lena spoke.
her voice steady and assuring. Elena, the apartment you bought, was it before your marriage? Yes, I replied, the truth feeling like a weight lifted from my chest. In that case, it's separate property, not marital property. It shouldn't be divided in the divorce. Relief flooded through me, the tension in my chest easing for the first time in days. I was still reeling from the emotional blow, but I could at least take solace in the fact that I had secured something of my own, something that Logan couldn't take from me. I threw myself into my work with renewed vigor. The merger I had been overseeing at the office was nearing its final stages, and despite the long hours and the exhaustion that had become my constant companion,
I focused on making sure it went off without a hitch.
sleep came in fits and bursts, mostly in my office, but the adrenaline kept me moving forward. A few days later, Maria, a longtime friend and realtor, called, her voice filled with worry. Elena, honey, are you alright? I just saw Logan's posts online. He's saying some really nasty things about you. My stomach sank. What kind of things? I asked, already dreading the answer. Maria hesitated. He's calling you a heartless career woman, and he's even talking about suing for alimony and trying to claim the apartment in the divorce. I laughed bitterly. Let him try. The apartment is mine, and he knows it. After hanging up with Maria,
I sat at my desk.
my mind racing. Logan was trying to paint me as the villain in our story, trying to ruin my reputation, but I wasn't about to let that happen. Not after everything I had sacrificed, not after everything he had taken from me. I picked up the phone and dialed Mr. Arthur's number, after outlining the situation to him.
I braced for the worst.
But his response was far from what I expected. Elena, your personal life won't affect your job here. You're a valued employee. Don't let this situation affect your performance. His words, full of understanding and support, brought a sense of calm to the chaos in my life. Mr. Arthur even suggested that I take some time off to handle things, especially since the merger was nearing completion. Thank you, sir, I replied, grateful for his support.
I appreciate that.
That evening, just as I was about to leave the office,
A notification on my phone caught my eye.
Logan had started a live broadcast from what had once been our shared apartment. Now, it was clearly mine. Against my better judgment, I clicked on the stream. There he was, standing in the center of our apartment, discussing grand renovation plans with a film crew. He was so caught up in his own self-congratulation that he didn't realize what was about to happen. An idea sparked in my mind, and I immediately called Maria. Maria, it's Elena. How quickly can you sell an apartment? I asked, barely able to contain the amusement in my voice. Laughter echoed through the phone. For you, Elena, I can work miracles. What's the plan? I outlined my plan, and Maria's excitement was palpable as she gasped and laughed at the brilliance of it all.
This is going to be amazing.
She exclaimed, I already know a couple who's been searching for exactly this kind of place. They're discreet, and we could close the deal in 3 weeks, maybe even sooner. After the call, I leaned back in my chair, a sly grin spreading across my face. Logan thought he was in control, but I was about to show him just how wrong he was. The next 3 weeks flew by in a blur. During the day, I continued to wrap up the merger, staying late into the night to finalize everything. Meanwhile, I coordinated with Maria, handling all the necessary paperwork, and watched as Logan posted boastful updates about his renovation plans. I could almost hear the arrogance in his voice through the screen. Little did he know, the game was already over. The pivotal day arrived. I put on my best suit, took a moment to enjoy my coffee, and prepared myself for what was to come. My phone buzzed. A message from Maria: "It's done. Paperwork signed. Money transferred. The new owners are in. Good luck." Satisfaction surged through me. The pieces were falling into place. I tried to focus on my work, but my thoughts kept straying to what was happening at that very moment. Lena's text came through next: "The TV crew and Logan's mom are here. Logan is looking pretty pleased with himself. The show's starting." My phone buzzed again. It was from Lena. "You won't believe this. The new owners just showed up." Logan's face? Priceless. I couldn't hold it in anymore. I laughed, earning confused glances from my colleagues. I excused myself, heading to the bathroom, where I allowed myself a moment of pure joy.
When I returned to my desk,
I found an email from Lena with a video link. I hesitated for only a moment before clicking it. The video opened with Logan standing in what had once been our shared apartment, now clearly mine. He was discussing his grand plans for renovations, oblivious to the fact that he was about to be blindsided. Then, the door opened,
and a well-dressed couple stepped in,
Followed by Maria.
holding the necessary documents. "Excuse me," the man said,
His voice calm but firm.
"I believe you're in our apartment." Logan's face twisted in confusion, and then anger. "Your apartment? This is my home," he blustered. Maria stepped forward, cool and collected. "Actually, Mr. Anderson,
this apartment now legally belongs to my clients.
The sale was finalized this morning." The look of disbelief on Logan's face was priceless. His confusion shifted into anger as he demanded an explanation. "Sale? What sale?" he yelled. Maria's response was calm and pointed. "The apartment was in her name, purchased before your marriage. She had every right to sell it." The scene quickly descended into chaos, with Logan shouting, his mother dramatically wailing, and the TV crew scrambling to capture every moment. The video ended with security escorting Logan and Addison out, while the crew followed eagerly, sensing the viral potential. Back at my desk, my phone buzzed again. This time, it was from Mr. Arthur. "Office now," the message read. I walked into his office, bracing myself for the fallout, but to my surprise,
He was smiling.
"Elena, sit down," he said, gesturing to a chair. "I've seen the video, it's everywhere." I flushed with embarrassment, unsure of what to expect. "Sir, I apologize for the unintended publicity," I said, mortified by how my personal life had spilled into the public eye. Mr. Arthur chuckled. "Elena, you've just proven exactly why you're the ideal candidate for the new department. You're clever, resourceful, and you've turned a difficult situation into an opportunity. Exactly what we need for this merger." His words caught me off guard, but in the best way. I couldn't help but smile. "Thank you, sir," I replied, relieved and grateful for his support. He smiled back. "Now, I think it's time you took that week off we talked about. Sort out your personal matters, find a new place, and when you return,
We'll finalize your promotion.
The week that followed was a whirlwind of moving, settling into a new home, and starting fresh. With the proceeds from the apartment sale, I found a beautiful house on the outskirts of the city. It was peaceful, serene, and everything I needed to heal. When I returned to